Hey, welcome back to the home front. I am your host, Reed Galen. Thanks for joining me this morning. My guest is supposed to be David Rothkopf, and I am actively hunting him down. When he arrives, I will bring him in. But for now, guys, it's just you and me, kid, and I could not be happier. And thank you all so much for joining me. So, a few things to get going, guys. One is I just posted a piece on my Substack here at the home front about Robert Redford. Obviously, he passed away this week, and I think all of us probably have our own favorite Redford movies. As someone who is a fan of spy movies, baseball, the West, he had a little bit of everything for a guy like me, and he was a brilliant actor, a brilliant director, a long time evangelist for the issues that he cared about. He didn't shy away from them. I happen to live here in Park City, Utah, the home, at least for one more year, of the Sundance Film Festival, which is always fun to see. So many of my friends now come to town with movies they've made or they've produced or they've even been in. I have family members who are in that business, so it's always good to have them come up in January and watch the good folks from New York City and Los Angeles brave what are often blizzard conditions here in the mountains of Utah. And then, of course, down at Sundance, which is about 45 minutes south of where I am, on the way to Provo, Redford created this incredible, you know, just oasis in the middle of, this little valley. You turn off Route 189, you go down this very, two-lane road in the shadow of Mount Timpanogos, and boom, there you are. And, we've had dinners there and lunches there. My daughter ski raced there years ago. So, for me, my favorite Redford movie was 3 Days of the Condor. It had everything. It had Redford spies, a great cast, Faye Dunaway, Cliff Robertson, Max von Sydow, who is just as brilliant as he could be, Sidney Pollack directing, and one of the most impactful lines, I think, even for all of us today, is when Redford's character Joe Turner is talking to Cliff Robertson, sort of the spy chief, and he said, "You guys really have plans to invade the Middle East. You really have plans to do that. You guys would do it, wouldn't you?" And this is like 1975, and boom, 28 years later, there we are. And so I think he was not only a brilliant actor and filmmaker, but so many of his movies worked on multiple levels, and I'm sure each of you have your own. So I hope you'll check that out. And I'm gonna do my own Redford redux for the balance of the week, but I hope you get there. All right. So guys, let's talk about a couple of other things. So we are now, let's see, it is September 17th. So we are 13 days from the end of the month, which means that the United States government is facing yet another government shutdown. I'm working on a piece right now for something else. Guys, we have not passed, I should not say we, the United States Congress has not passed all 12 appropriations bills on time since 1996. 29 years of inability, unwillingness, incompetence, or whatever to literally do the jobs that they are elected to do. And so, I think that shows you that government shutdowns being part of our annual miasma of insanity in Washington, D.C., I think to me really demonstrates a broader problem, which is the system lacks functionality. I think for the Republicans, if you want to get a budget deal done, why not just get it done? Why do you want another 2 or 3 month extension? For the Democrats, I think it's important to ask yourselves, like, do you believe that you can afford another capitulation like you had in March? And I don't think the answer is no. I don't think there's, at least, as long as I've been doing this, I don't think that the Democratic coalition can survive yet another what they would feel as a betrayal if the House and Senate Democratic leadership once again just go along to get along. I think that they are looking for someone to stand up. I saw, something on social media this morning that said, "Oh well, Democrats are more likely to be blamed for a shutdown than Republicans." Fine, fine, take it. Stop acting out of fear and start acting in principle. and in defense of the things that you say anyway, that you care about. And that if you really believe that the Trump administration is as bad as it is, and I think it is, then you should do what you can to starve them of the money they need to do the things they want to do until and unless you extract something from them. It already appears that the things that the Democrats have asked for, which are, the replacement of subsidies for Obamacare coverage, House Republicans have said no to. Okay, where are you going to go now? It seems to me strategically too that you should probably push your demands, more than half a step in front of you if you're going to do something, as opposed to the first thing you ask for is the first thing they say no to. But again, I think we have to work with whom we have to work. All right. There are a couple of other things. So in the last few weeks, there have been several new groups starting up on the Democratic side of the aisle. And it is interesting that most of these groups are based in Washington, D.C. Most of them, their roles, and they say this out loud, is specifically to defend the establishment wing of the Democratic Party, the entrenched part of the Democratic Party, at the expense of taking on progressives, the left, whatever it is they're going to call it, often funded either in part or heavily by hedge fund managers, which I think is ironic. And I think it really, to me, speaks to the schism within the Democratic Party and why, it's got a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde issue going for real, which is you are either the party of plutocrats or you are the party of the people. It's very, very difficult to be both. It's very difficult to be both. And you could make all sorts of arguments about that you don't want to talk about social issues, that you don't want to talk about things that have been divisive in culture wars or have been costly to Democrats. Look, I get that from an electoral perspective. But then what are you going to be for? And, when I see this latest story I read in the New York Times by Reed J. Epstein today, that there's a new group funded by $10 million, as I said, in big donor money based in Capitol Hill, right? Hard for me to believe that this is a group of people, even if I believe that their intentions are good, which I shouldn't believe otherwise. How can we expect that, these are the people that are going to come up with the quote unquote new ideas when everything about them screams old, entrenched, establishment, desires to keep a world moving that no longer works for the vast majority of Americans? And I think that that's a real question that the Democratic Party should have an open fight about. In fact, I had a conversation a few weeks ago with the great guy Corbin Trent at the American Undoing and Unraveling, excuse me. I posted it to my Substack channel and to my podcast channels, both Spotify and Apple, about this. That's up now. I hope you go check it out and talk about this, which is, you have to be able to have an open, honest, sometimes ugly and uncomfortable conversation. And for me, what I see now is that while the electoral energy, while the desire is with the, let's say, the more progressive, the more outside the establishment parts of the Democratic Party, it also appears that the establishment wing, which has the money, which has the power at this moment, is certainly gearing up to win that internal fight. And again, I'll just say this, guys, I hate the word centrist. I hate the word moderate. I don't believe that there's anybody who lives at 0-0 on an XY axis politically. I think we're all in different quadrants. And I think that trying to do a Shark Tank style policy game is insulting to the people you claim to be wanting to serve, not to mention the fact that, again, if you have a certain kind of person who's put millions and millions of dollars into you, I assume that you're going to defer to their policy prescriptions or their wishes. You're probably not going to go against their financial, political, cultural, or otherwise interests. And I find that an interesting way for the Democrats to go. And I also think a lot of this too, guys, is so often couched in the tactical, right? Here are the little things we're going to do. Tactics are downstream of strategy, and strategy is downstream of belief. And this is what I've said to so many of my Democratic friends over the year when they say, oh, when we were at the Lincoln Project, you guys were so good at messaging. How do you do it? I'm like, because we believed in something. We believed in the country. We believed that Donald Trump was an existential threat, and all the messaging and everything else flowed from that. You all have to decide what you agree with, right? And so far, what I've seen from Democratic leadership so far is that they believe they should be in charge and not much else. And so they rely on polling or focus groups or machines to come up with what it is they think voters want to hear. When my experience, which is mostly anecdotal, but I've been out there a lot, is most voters are just sick of being lied to. And most voters don't believe that you say you're going to help them because they've been waiting. And I had Amanda Littman for run for something on one of these last week. And, we came to this really, I don't know if it's an epiphany, but it was an interesting conclusion. So many people say, well, MAGA voters, Republican voters, they vote against their interests. Okay, but if they've waited 30 years, if those working class voters, not just white working class voters, but working class voters across the political spectrum and across demographics have been waiting 30 years for you to actually take an interest in their issues, in their interests, and they have seen nothing, then they will trade their interests for anger. And I think that's what you've seen. They'll trade their interests for anger, or they'll trade their interests for apathy. But one way or the other, the one thing they're not trading is their vote, or they're not giving their vote to you. They're not buying what you're selling. I saw this great expression, like, you guys keep trying to sell the same old wine in a new bottle and nobody wants it. They know what you're doing and they're not taking it anymore. And I think that if you want to start finding a new way forward, and it must be a new way forward, because just as we criticize Trump and co. for nostalgia and being beholden to a 1950s that never existed, right? To my Democratic friends, like the 1990s, however good they were for you, are not coming back. They are not coming back. We are not going back to that place. We're not going back to the ages of Obama or even Biden. The world is out ahead of us. And until and unless we realize that everything has fundamentally changed, everything has fundamentally changed, just trying to slap the same old Band-Aids on the cultural, societal, economic, political bullet wounds, and I hate to use that expression, and I'm sorry I did, I probably would rethink that now, isn't going to get us where we need to go. And so, I want to talk to new voices. I want to talk to different voices. It's why I live 2,000 miles away from Washington, D.C. I grew up there. Don't like going back unless I need to. And I think that the Beltway is not just a highway, it is also a barrier between the ruling class and the political bureaucrats and the rest of us. All right. Last thing. Here we are. I live in Utah, so Utah's been at the center of the news for the last week. The young man, Tyler Robinson, had his first court appearance yesterday. And FBI Director Kash Patel went before the United States Senate during a hearing. And people are like, oh my God, he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like, why are we surprised? And this is what I want to ask everybody. At long last, why are we still surprised by anything? Anything that Donald Trump says or does, anything the incompetent boobs around him, try and do, right? Incompetence is the reason why they were selected in the first place. They were picked because they're morons. They were picked because they're idiots. And because they're morons and they're idiots and they're incompetent, you know what they can do? Be easily controlled. And that's the whole point. There's a small group of people who are much smarter than we give them credit for that surround Donald Trump that have a very, very particular worldview. And idiots like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi help advance that worldview through their own incompetence because they just do what they're told. We should not expect many brave souls to come out of this version of the Trump administration. They excised all those people last time, and in the intervening 4 years, they purified what it is they're seeing. And now they will use the death of Charlie Kirk and the widowing of his wife and the making of his kids as orphans in their own ways for their own purposes. And we should remember that in almost every case, in my experience, in fact, I don't know that there's another case, the MAGA train rolls in only one direction, and that's towards the darkness. So I ask you to please stop being surprised. Okay, guys, looks like David had something else run over. So I will reschedule with him. But for now, please go to jointheunion.us and sign up today, guys. We have voter registration drives going in 10 states right now. We have troops on the ground in New Jersey, Virginia, and Pennsylvania as we have those elections coming up in just less than 50 days now, guys. So please get involved. And if you're not going to get involved at jointheunion.us, which you should, get involved in your community. It does not have to be political. It can be civic. It can be charitable, but do something. If you're feeling hopeless, get off the internet and get into your neighborhoods and figure out what needs to happen there, guys. We're going to need a lot more mutual aid and a lot more taking care of each other in the coming days, weeks, and months. Thank you so much for joining me. I will actually be back with Tom LoBianco here in about 40 minutes, so I hope you'll tune in for that. Until then, thanks everybody, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.